call it a plantation, but it's not the same as like back in the 1800s. So a lot of those plantations would grow cotton that would be produced and made into clothing and all sorts of things, you know. So there were other types of things they would grow, but cotton was very, very common. It grows very well in the southern states. And so there's just these huge, huge cotton farms. So once they would harvest it, they would package it and like put it on the steamboats to take to wherever they needed to take it. The Mississippi was really important to get like produce and products to other states, other parts of the United States. That's part of why the Mississippi became so famous, is it helped in just the trade between states. Yeah. Any other questions?
And a lucrative trade.
Yes, lucrative means to like make a lot of money, that it's beneficial. You get a lot of money from it. And then trade means that you're like buying and selling things, a company. Yeah, business.
And then trying to carry.
Tributaries.
Yeah.
Yes, a tributary is like a smaller off-branching like river or creek off of a big river. So right, the Mississippi is very big, and it runs, I believe, all the way north to south of the United States, and it's very large. And so there's all these little tributaries that come off of the Mississippi River, these smaller rivers and creeks and things. Yeah. So any big river can have tributaries, or a big lake, usually river, can have tributaries. Mm-hmm.
And shift rapidly. Shift rapidly.
Yes, let me find it.
The last paragraph has line and an after quote.
Oh yes, shift rapidly. Thank you. This means to like move quickly, to like change. So rapidly is quickly, but shift means to like change or move. So right, a mud bank, a sand bank is going to change water level to show where like the ground underneath the water is, or up on the side or whatever, right? And so those will move. They're made of mud and sand, these ones are. And so they'll move and they'll change in the water pressure. And so when that happens, and it happens quickly, then your boat, right, you might need to be in a different part of the river because you're going to like run aground or that type of stuff. So it's just saying that it'll move or it'll change very quickly. And so there have to be people who understand how the river works. Yeah.
So what is ruthless?
Say it one more time.
Yeah, ruthless.
Ruthless, yes. Let's see how they did the determined, insensitive. So it's like really like determined, like you are going to accomplish your goal without any care for anyone else. So you might hurt a bunch of people in the process, but who cares? You did what you set out to do. So it's kind of like an unkind determination. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. You guys have good questions. Anything else from these paragraphs?
What's my passenger and cargo?
Yes. So a full load of passengers and cargo down here?
Yes.
So passengers are people who ride in any vehicle. So in a car, in boats, in a train, on a bicycle, anyone who's riding on a vehicle of transportation is a passenger. And cargo is items or products that also ride along that are not human. And so like on an airplane, you have passengers, but you also have cargo because you have all their luggage and you know, all that stuff. So anything that's not humans is cargo, and humans are passengers. All right, anything else? Okay, we'll move right along. Let's go ahead and just go all the way down. That's a little bit
Teacher.
long, but I think it'll be okay. Yes, yes, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Yes. Even beyond.
Yes. Okay, so the boats would race each other. They were pushed to their limits, like their capability, right? And then even beyond means like a boat is supposed to go this fast, like let's say 18 knots, okay? But they were pushed, the paddle wheels spinning, so much steam coming out, they were pushed to go 25 knots, right? I'm making up numbers here, but they were pushed beyond their limits. They did better than they were supposed to. And what happens when you push something beyond its limits is really, if you were to finish the sentence, it'd be even beyond its limits or their limits, is they will run down or break faster. And so that's why they're saying that the steamboat would only last 18 months, because they were being pushed beyond how they were made. So I'm trying to think of another example. Really any tool or item. You can even push people beyond their limits. So I'm a classroom teacher. In the United States, you have about 20, 25 kids to a classroom. That's a typical class size. And if they put 50 kids in my classroom, I would be incredibly overwhelmed with the expectations I have put on me to teach these kids, right? I would be pushed beyond my limits. I would not do well with 50 kids in my classroom. So you can push really anything beyond their capability. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, good questions. All right, so we'll go ahead and read this last section. We'll just go all the way to the end here. Navigation on the river was and still is, we already read that. We'll do here to here. Okay. All kinds of boats could be seen on the river. The great passenger boats of the 19th century were magnificently decorated, like floating palaces, with all the luxuries that first-class passengers could wish for. But other more ordinary boats carried a mix of passengers and cargo. There were the legendary showboats too, floating cabarets, music halls, and theaters that would bring entertainment to the towns and cities along the river and its tributaries. Today, there are few paddle wheelers left on the Mississippi, and those that remain are for tourists. Nevertheless, one of them, the American Queen, is the largest stern wheeler ever built. Launched in 1995, it has 7 decks, a crew of 160, and a capacity of over 400 passengers. With 2 other large boats, the Mississippi Queen and the Delta Queen, the latter built in 1926, the American Queen now carries tourists up and down the river between New Orleans and St. Louis. Okay, any questions from these ones?
Platinum cabaret.
Yes, I'm going to look this one up. So I've heard the word cabaret lots of times in my life. And you know how sometimes you hear words and you're like, yeah, sure, I know what that means. You don't know what it means. So let me look at what it means. It's something about like theater. It says cabaret is a form of theatrical entertainment featuring music, song, dance, recitation, or drama. It's typically performed like in a nightclub or a restaurant or hotel, like a smaller venue, not like a theater. It says typically the audience, who is usually eating dinner or like drinking, will sit at tables rather than like in a theater style of show. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now I know what that word means. Thanks for asking. And then floating just means that it's on the boat.
Teacher, what is a luxury mean?
Legendary?
A luxury,
Oh, luxury. Got
L-U-X-U.
it. Yes. Luxury is something that you don't need, but makes life nice. So you don't need it. It's not a necessity. It's a luxury. So this past Christmas, I got to go visit my parents in California, and flying across the United States was a luxury. I didn't need to do that, right? To live, it's not food or breath or air or a house or right. I didn't need those things, but it was nice. It was a luxury to get to go and see them. Sometimes it can be like other goods, just something that's like extra in life that's nice, but you don't need it. Yeah.
Teacher, what is like a frequently mean? The first sentence.
First paragraph here. Say it one more time.
Sorry,
Here.
sir. Like showboat.
Okay. Oh, legendary. This one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Sometimes I have trouble like hearing and understand finding it in the passage. So thank you. Legendary means like super famous. It's gone down in history. Like kind of everyone knows it. It's so famous, but also like historical. So legendary could maybe be someone who's currently famous, but typically it's like it's so famous all the next generations even know about it. So like as someone who obviously did not live when there were steamboats on the Mississippi for the purpose of trade and for passengers and things, I know all about these steamboats and that there were showboats and there were huge, music halls and theaters, and like it was like a huge thing, right? Like it's legendary, like every American just knows about it. It's really famous.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, good questions.
Magnificently. Yeah.
Let me find it. Magnificently. Yes.
First paragraph, line 2.
Yes, thank you. Magnificently. Like, magnificent is sort of like majestic or incredibly beautiful. Yeah. Like incredible, like just amazing. Yeah.
And launch in 1995.
Okay. I just gotta find it. Hang on. Here it is. Launched.
Yeah.
To like set forth, to begin, specifically for a boat, would be to launch a boat into the water. So that is a specific definition. But this, while it may be talking about launching it into the water, it also is like it began. So you can like launch a company. You can launch a, I can't think of something else right now, but like you can launch something else. You're just beginning it.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else?
What's the but?
Sorry, say it one more time.
Sampai kasi yan sa biya ba? Sampai muda ba sampai.
Seven decks.
Sorry?
Before a crude or 160. A crude or 160.
Oh,
Yeah.
7 decks.
That.
Here?
7 decks. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Oh, good question. Okay, so the steamboats, if you look at this picture, like there's a level down here and there's a level up here and there's a level up here. It's like different floors, you know? So like in a building, you can have different floors and like an elevator or stairs to go up to the next floor. On a boat, it's called a deck.
Oh.
Yeah. Deck can also be in the United States anyways, especially like in the Midwest where I live. We have decks on our houses. So like you have your house, your normal house, right? And then on the outside, you have like a porch or a deck and it's like off the ground. It's like raised off the ground. And so like outside in my backyard, like I walk outdoors and there's like this porch, this like wooden floor, and it's like, I don't know, 3-4 feet off the ground, on whatever is holding it up underneath, and then I can like walk down the stairs into my backyard, and that's also a deck or a porch. But in this case, since it's talking about a boat, that just means like the floors, the levels, are called decks on boats. Yeah, good question. Someone from the chat was asking about mud banks and sand banks. Wasn't that like up here somewhere? A mud bank is just like a part of the land made of mud. Sand bank is a part of the land made of sand. It's particularly in a river. Like a bank is like the side of a river, like the land's going into the river. And so if it's made of sand or mud, then it'll like be a mudslide or something like that, and it changes. So it's like that part where the land and the water like meet. All right, are there any other questions? Okay, we will pause there. I'll stop sharing my screen for a second. So that article was pretty short. We have a little bit of time before we need to wrap up. We can go ahead and look at another article. I'm trying to look at it here. We'll just look at part of it because we won't have enough time to do all of it. Good questions, guys. So I'll share my screen. All right. So we'll just do part of this article. This article is about Wall Street. Have you guys heard about Wall Street? Do you guys know about Wall Street? Yeah, okay. I don't want to have to like sit and explain it all if you already kind of know what it is. Essentially, it's in New York, and it's a street that houses most of the like financial institutions in the United States, and a lot of people invest money, and it's where like the stock market is housed, and like investments and that type of stuff. And so it can go up and down, and there's been like in history, there's a lot of information about Wall Street and the stock market and crashes and all sorts of stuff. Anyways, that's what this article is about. If you say Wall Street in the United States, everyone knows exactly what you're talking about, and that you're talking about investments. Okay, so we'll just read, I don't know, a couple paragraphs here. We'll stop here at this gray section so that it's not too long. All right, say the streets of New York to a non-American, and he'll probably think of Times Square, Madison Avenue, or Broadway. But mention the subject to an American, and for many, the first name that comes to mind will be Wall Street. Now, as an American, in my circle of life, that is not true. I think of like the Statue of Liberty and Times Square and stuff like that. Wall Street might eventually get in there, but I'm not really in the financial world, and so that's why that's not my first go-to. But people who are would think of Wall Street. For many, Wall Street is indeed just the street, probably the most important street in the USA or even in the world, as what goes on Wall Street, more perhaps than what goes on in Congress, can have a direct influence on the lives of everyone in the USA, if not most people in the world. Wall Street is, of course, the home of the New York Stock Exchange, the financial heart of the American business world. Each day, billions of dollars of shares are traded on the floor of the stock exchange on behalf of companies, pension funds, and private individuals wanting to protect their investments or their life savings and make sure that they too are on the bandwagon of prosperity. The New York Stock Exchange is the biggest and most active stock exchange in the world. Over half of all adult Americans have some, if not all, of their savings invested directly on Wall Street. So it is not surprising that the fluctuations of the street's famous indexes, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ, are followed daily by millions of ordinary Americans. When the Dow and the NASDAQ are on a rise, millions of Americans feel more prosperous. When they are falling, millions start feeling worried about their financial security and their retirement years. Yet more importantly, when Wall Street booms, it is a sign that the American economy is booming, creating jobs and prosperity for people throughout the nation. When Wall Street slumps for more than a short period, it is because the American economy is slowing down, putting investment and jobs at risk. Nevertheless, in spite of its periodic crashes and downturns, most Americans know very well that by investing directly in the stock market, they are probably ensuring the best possible long-term return on their investments. Over time, direct investments on Wall Street have always done better than most other forms of long-term placement, and logically speaking, this is inevitable. Ultimately, most forms of investment depend on the performance of the U.S. economy in general, and by investing directly on Wall Street, American investors are simply ensuring that they personally take full advantage of the growth of the stock market rather than share their gains with banks, investment trusts, or other intermediaries offering investment services. Okay. So let's just do these first two paragraphs. Say the streets of New York to a non-American, and he'll probably think of Times Square, Madison Avenue, or Broadway, but mention the subject to an American, and for many, the first name that comes to mind will be Wall Street. For many, Wall Street is indeed just the street, probably the most important street in the USA or even in the world, as what goes on Wall Street, more perhaps than what goes on in Congress, can have a direct influence on the lives of everyone in the USA, if not most people in the world. So are there any questions from these paragraphs here? Alrighty, we'll keep moving right along. Wall Street is, of course, the home of the New York Stock Exchange, the financial heart of the American business world. Each day, billions of dollars of shares are traded on the floor of the stock exchange on behalf of companies, pension funds, and private individuals wanting to protect their investments or their life savings and make sure that they too are on the bandwagon of prosperity. So we'll just keep this short paragraph. Are there any questions in this paragraph?
And a pension fund.
Say it one more time. A pension fund?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about finances. A pension is like money that you receive from a company or the government for your retirement, for working for that company for a certain amount of time. And so you're given a pension. So people who work in our military, for example, for a certain length of time, receive a pension for their retirement money. So they retire, they're given a pension. Teachers, if you work for a certain amount of time, since you're like employed by the government, essentially, you're given a pension. So there's just different, typically government positions, jobs, that you're given pension instead of other ways of receiving retirement money. And then funds are money. And so it's ways that they can invest in the stock market. Someone had a couple of questions from the chat. So Avenue or Broadway? Madison Avenue is a street in New York. I don't remember what's on Madison Avenue. Isn't it like that famous park or something? What's that park called? I'm not from New York. Madison Avenue, if I could probably Google it. Broadway is where in New York is where like all the like famous theaters are. And so people will like go to a Broadway show, which just means that it's like very high class quality theater. Madison, yeah, because isn't it like Madison Square Gardens or whatever? Hang on. Madison Avenue. It looks like it's like a shopping, or not agriculture, architecture, like just like a fancy place in New York. Is Madison Avenue. And then one more thing from the chat. What was it? Comes to mind. To come into mind means to like think of that thing, that it like enters your brain.
And stock exchange on behalf of company.
Yes. So stock exchange is basically like the thing that exists. I don't know what to call it, where basically like the stock market exists. Like the stock exchange is where people invest their money in stocks and trade stocks and like all sorts of things, buy and sell stocks and all sorts of things. It's basically that process of investing money into the stock market and the buying and selling and the trading of stocks. And investment is the stock exchange. Yes, so that's the stock exchange. And then on behalf of companies, so that just means that the people who work for the stock exchange, in particular the New York Stock Exchange, they will make these trades and they will buy and sell things, and right, they'll invest particular monies in particular stocks on behalf or for companies, so that the company itself or the individual or the company running the pension fund don't have to do it themselves. There's people who will do it for them, who work for the stock exchange. Does that make sense?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Second paragraph, fourth line, and Congress.
Yes.
Congress. I think so. Congress means is come to where parliament member. I think so. This mean.
Congress is a part of the American government. So the American government has three branches that it's made up of: the presidential or executive branch, the like judicial or like the courts branch, and then the like legislator branch, which the legislative branch, those are the people who make the laws, and they are either in Congress or they are part of the House of Representatives. Like the House of well, okay, they're part of Congress, and Congress is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And the House of Representatives are people from the state who represent the amount of people in the state, and then the Senate like represent the state itself. It just depends on like how many people come from each state. Anyways, and so there's a certain amount of people in the Senate and in the House of Representatives from each state, and they make laws. And then the judicial branch help and the executive branch help to pass those laws. Anyways, so Congress, House of Representatives, and the Senate, they make the laws for the United States.
Yes, sir. I got it.
Good, thank you.
And paragon or property. Paragon, the last line. Yeah.
Prosperity? Bandwagon?
Yeah.
Okay. Bandwagon of prosperity. How do they bandwagon? Be on a bandwagon. Be a part of. Yes, bandwagon means like, I'm sure that there's some history to that vocabulary word of why that's a word, but it basically means you want to be a part of that group. So if you want to be on a bandwagon or join the bandwagon, is usually how people say it, is you want to be a part of that thing. So if people are really excited about the stock market and you want to be excited about it too and invest too, then you want to join that bandwagon. Or if you want to, I don't know, become part of some singing group and you're really, excited and want to be a singer, right? You can join that bandwagon. Any group that you want to be a part of, you can join the bandwagon. So they want to join or be on the bandwagon of prosperity, which is prosperity is just like success, particularly financial success.
Share with me billion of dollars or share are traded. Second paragraph full line.
The second paragraph, direct influence.
No. Billion or BILLIONS. Each day billions or dollars of share are traded.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it in this paragraph or this paragraph?
No, yes, this paragraph.
This one?
Yeah, this
And
one.
what line is it? 1, 2,
4.
the fourth one?
Yes.
Billions of dollars of shares are traded. This part?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're so kind to me. Okay, so billions of dollars, right? You know what billions are, right? Millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? That's money. Of shares. Shares are what you trade on the stock market. It's essentially investing your money into someone else's company. Hopefully that company grows, it makes money, and you get some of that money back. That's a very simple definition, but that's essentially what a share is. And then to trade, let me see how they define traded. Where am I? Where's traded? Here, to buy and sell.